The vastness of space stretched out before the exploration fleet of the Galactic Empire, its grand ships cutting effortlessly through the inky blackness. For centuries, the Empire had expanded its borders, assimilating countless alien civilizations into its fold. This latest expedition, led by the seasoned commander Xyloth, was tasked with making first contact with a newly discovered species, a species known as humans. As the fleet approached the human homeworld, Xyloth studied the data gathered by his scouts. These humans, it seemed, were a primitive race, just beginning to venture out into the stars. Their technology, while impressive for their level of development, was no match for the advanced weaponry and propulsion systems of the Galactic Empire. We must approach this encounter with caution, Xyloth mused, addressing his senior officers. These humans may be unpredictable. We cannot underestimate them, even if they appear to be no threat to the might of the Empire. The fleet descended upon the human world, its massive vessels casting long shadows over the cities below. Xyloth ordered his communications officers to establish contact, hoping to initiate diplomatic relations and secure the humans' peaceful surrender. However, as the Galactic Empire's envoys approached the human leaders, they were met with a surprising reaction. The humans, led by their president Evelyn Harrington, stood their ground, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and defiance. "We have heard the stories of your conquest, Galactic Empire," Evelyn said, her voice steady. "You have subjugated countless civilizations, stripping them of their autonomy and forcing them to bend to your will. We will not be the next to fall under your dominion." Xyloth, taken aback by the humans' bold stance, attempted to reason with them. "We come in peace to offer you the opportunity to join the Galactic Empire. We can guarantee your people's safety and prosperity as long as you submit to our rule." Evelyn shook her head, her eyes narrowing. "We have seen what your prosperity entails. Our people will never surrender their freedom, no matter the consequences." Tension filled the air as the two sides stood facing each other, their differences seemingly irreconcilable. Xyloth could sense the fear in the human's eyes, but he also detected an unwavering determination that he had not anticipated. "You leave us no choice, then," Xyloth said, his voice laced with a hint of regret. "If you refuse to join the Galactic Empire peacefully, we will be forced to take action." Evelyn's expression hardened. "Then so be it. We will fight to the last to defend our home and our way of life." As the communication channel closed, Xyloth turned to his officers, a deep frown etched on his face. "Prepare the fleet for battle," he ordered. "It seems we have underestimated these humans. We must now show them the true might of the Galactic Empire." The massive ships of the Galactic Empire began to move, their weapons systems powering up. The humans, faced with the overwhelming force of their extraterrestrial invaders, braced themselves for a conflict that would test the very limits of their resilience and determination. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of both civilizations, as the Galactic Empire prepared to face the humans in a war unlike any it had ever encountered before. The tension in the room was palpable as the human delegation faced off against the representatives of the Galactic Empire. Evelyn Harrington, the president of the human homeworld, sat across the table from Commander Xyloth, the experienced galactic diplomat tasked with securing the humans' surrender. "We are here to negotiate the terms of your peaceful integration into the Galactic Empire," Xyloth began, his voice calm and measured. "I urge you to reconsider your refusal to join us. The benefits of membership are immense: technological advancement, economic prosperity, and the protection of our vast military might." Evelyn's eyes narrowed as she listened to the Galactic Commander's words. "You speak of benefits, but we have seen how your empire treats those it deems lesser civilizations. We will not surrender our autonomy, no matter the cost." One of Xyloth's aides, a tall, imposing figure named Zora, leaned forward. "You must understand, President Harrington, that resistance is futile. The Galactic Empire has conquered countless worlds before yours. Your primitive technology stands no chance against our might. The human delegation exchanged uneasy glances, but Evelyn remained steadfast. We may be technologically behind, but we are not without our own strengths. Our people are resilient, and they are willing to fight to the last to defend our freedom. Styloth raised a hand, silencing Zora's retort. Very well. If you refuse to join us willingly, then we will have no choice but to take more drastic measures. His eyes narrowed. I urge you to reconsider. The alternative will be most unpleasant. Evelyn's jaw tightened, but she refused to back down. We have made our decision, Galactic Commander. We will not be bullied or intimidated. If you attempt to force us into submission, you will find that the humans are a far more formidable adversary than you expect. The negotiations dragged on for weeks, with both sides refusing to budge from their positions. Tempers flared, and the threat of violence hung in the air, but neither the humans nor the Galactic Empire were willing to compromise. As the talks reached an impasse, Styloth grew increasingly frustrated. You are making a grave mistake, President Harrington. The Galactic Empire does not tolerate defiance. If you continue to refuse our generous offer, we will have no choice but to use force. Evelyn's expression hardened. Then so be it. We are prepared to defend our homeworld, no matter the cost. Your empire will find that the humans are not so easily conquered. With those words, the diplomatic negotiations came to a bitter end. Styloth and his delegation returned to their ships, their faces etched with a mixture of anger and apprehension. They had expected the humans to surrender, but instead, they had encountered a people willing to fight for their freedom. As the galactic ships prepared to depart, Evelyn and her advisors convened an emergency meeting. The time for diplomacy had passed. Now they had to prepare for the coming storm, a war with the mighty Galactic Empire that would test the limits of human resilience and determination. The air in the Human Command Center was thick with tension as President Evelyn Harrington and her military advisors pored over the latest intelligence reports. After the breakdown of diplomatic negotiations with the Galactic Empire, it was clear that war was now inevitable. The Empire's fleet is amassing at the edge of our solar system. General Nicholas Petrov reported, his brow furrowed with concern. Their ships are more numerous and technologically advanced than anything we've ever faced before. Evelyn nodded grimly. We knew this day would come. The Empire has made it clear that they will not tolerate our refusal to surrender. One of the other advisors, a brilliant young strategist named Samantha Zhao, spoke up. We may be outmatched in terms of military might, but we have one advantage, our determination to fight for our freedom. The Empire has never faced an adversary like us before. Petrov nodded in agreement. Samantha's right. Our people are willing to lay down their lives to defend our homeworld. We may not have the resources of the Empire, but we have the will to win. Just then, a transmission from the Galactic Empire flashed onto the command center's main screen. It was Commander Styloth, his face etched with a mixture of frustration and ultimatum. People of Earth, Styloth began, his voice booming through the speakers. You have stubbornly refused to heed our generous offer of integration into the Galactic Empire. Your continued defiance has left us with no choice. He paused, his eyes narrowing. You have 48 hours to surrender unconditionally and submit to our rule. If you fail to do so, we will unleash the full might of our armada upon your world, and your civilization will be crushed. Evelyn's jaw tightened as she listened to Styloth's ultimatum. She knew that the Empire's threat was not an empty one. They had conquered countless worlds before, and they would not hesitate to do the same to Earth. This is our final offer, humans. Styloth continued. Surrender now, and we will spare your lives. Refuse, and face the consequences of your foolish decision. The transmission cut off, leaving the human leaders in stunned silence. Samantha was the first to speak, her voice laced with determination. We cannot surrender, not after everything we fought for. Our people will never accept living under the Empire's rule. Petrov nodded in agreement. Samantha's right. We must prepare for war. If the Empire thinks they can simply crush us, they're in for a rude awakening. Evelyn took a deep breath, her gaze sweeping across the faces of her advisors. Then it settled. We will not surrender. We will fight the Galactic Empire with everything we have. The next 48 hours were a flurry of activity as the human military mobilized its forces, upgrading weapons systems and fortifying defenses. Across the world, the people of Earth braced themselves for the impending conflict, their determination fueled by the knowledge that they were fighting for their very survival. As the ultimatum drew to a close, Evelyn stood at the podium, addressing the people of Earth. The Galactic Empire has given us an ultimatum. Surrender or be destroyed. But we will not back down. We are the human race, and we will fight to the last to defend our freedom. The crowd erupted in thunderous applause, their cries of defiance echoing across the planet. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of both civilizations, as the Galactic Empire prepared to face the humans in a war unlike any it had ever encountered before. The Human Military Command Center was a hive of activity as General Nicholas Petrov and his team of strategists worked tirelessly to prepare for the impending conflict with the Galactic Empire. Time was of the essence, and they knew that the fate of their civilization hung in the balance. We need to upgrade our defense systems as quickly as possible, Petrov said, his brow furrowed with concentration. The Empire's weapons technology is far more advanced than anything we've encountered before. Samantha Zhao, the brilliant young strategist, nodded in agreement. I've been working with our engineers to retrofit our existing weapons and develop new, more powerful ones. But we're still vastly outnumbered and outmatched in terms of firepower. Petrov's expression darkened. Then we'll have to find other ways to even the playing field. We need to leverage our strengths, our resourcefulness, our adaptability, and our sheer determination to win. Across the planet, the human military was mobilizing its forces, conscripting civilians and training them as soldiers. Factories were working around the clock to produce weapons, vehicles, and supplies, while research teams raced to develop new technologies that could give them an edge against the Galactic Empire. In the midst of the frenetic preparations, tensions began to mount within the human leadership. Some argued for a more cautious approach, advocating for a surrender to minimize the loss of life. Others, like Evelyn Harrington, the president of the human homeworld, remained steadfast in their refusal to submit to the Empire's demands. We've come too far to give up now, Evelyn said, her voice filled with resolve. Our ancestors fought and died for the freedom we enjoy today. We cannot, and will not, surrender that freedom to the Galactic Empire. Petrov nodded in agreement. The president is right. We may be outmatched, but we have something the Empire has never faced before: the unwavering determination of the human spirit. As the countdown to the Empire's attack ticked away, the human military continued to make preparations, upgrading their defenses and honing their combat tactics. They knew that the coming battle would be a true test of their resolve, but they were determined to prove to the Galactic Empire that the humans were a force to be reckoned with. Meanwhile, on the edge of the solar system, the Galactic Empire's fleet began to amass, its massive ships casting ominous shadows over the human homeworld. Commander Xyloth, his earlier confidence now tinged with a hint of uncertainty, watched the preparations unfolding below with a growing sense of unease. These humans are proving to be more resilient than we anticipated, he murmured to his officers. We may have underestimated them. But no matter, when the time comes, we will show them the true might of the Galactic Empire. As the final hours ticked away, the human people braced themselves for the impending clash, their hearts filled with a mix of fear and determination. They knew that the future of their civilization hung in the balance, and they were ready to fight to the last to defend their freedom. The skies above the human homeworld erupted into a maelstrom of light and sound as the Galactic Empire's massive fleet descended upon the planet. Thousands of sleek, advanced ships rained down a barrage of devastating firepower, their weapons tearing through the humans' hastily erected defenses. General Nicholas Petrov gripped the edge of the command console, his knuckles turning white as he watched the unfolding battle. "All units, report in," he barked, his voice tinged with a sense of urgency. One by one, the reports came in. Cities under attack, military installations in ruins, and casualties mounting rapidly. The humans were outmatched, their weapons and tactics no match for the Empire's sheer technological superiority. President Evelyn Harrington stood beside Petrov, her face a mask of grim determination. "We knew this day would come," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But we will not surrender. Order all available forces to engage the enemy, no matter the cost." The human military responded with a fury born of desperation. Fighter pilots streaked across the skies, engaging the Empire's ships in a pitched aerial battle. Ground forces, armed with a patchwork of hastily upgraded weapons, rushed to defend their cities, determined to make the invaders pay for every inch of ground they took. But the Galactic Empire's onslaught was relentless, and the humans found themselves slowly being pushed back. The Empire's seemingly endless supply of ships and soldiers overwhelmed the human defenders, their advanced technology and tactics proving too much for the outmatched resistance. Petrov gritted his teeth, his mind racing as he tried to devise a new strategy. "We need to regroup, consolidate our forces, and hit them where they're weakest," he said, his eyes scanning the live feed from the battlefield. Evelyn nodded, her expression grim. "Do it. We can't let them break through to the civilian population. Every life we save is a victory against the Empire." The human forces fought with a desperate ferocity, inflicting heavy casualties on the Galactic Empire's invaders. But the sheer scale of the assault, combined with the Empire's technological superiority, slowly began to take its toll. One by one, the human cities fell, their defenses crumbling under the relentless onslaught. As the battle raged on, Commander Xylov watched from the bridge of his command ship, his expression a mix of satisfaction and disbelief. "These humans are proving to be more resilient than we anticipated," he murmured to his officers, "but their resistance is futile. They cannot withstand the might of the Galactic Empire." The human forces, battered and bruised, were forced to retreat, their once proud defenses in ruins. Evelyn and Petrov watched as the last of their troops pulled back, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of the staggering losses they had suffered. "It's not over yet," Evelyn said, her voice firm. "We will regroup, we will rebuild, and we will come back stronger than ever. The Galactic Empire may have won this battle, but the war is far from over." As the Empire's ships continued to advance, the people of Earth braced themselves for the next stage of the conflict, their determination fueled by the knowledge that the future of their civilization hung in the balance. Despite the devastating losses suffered during the initial assault, the spirit of the human resistance remained unbroken. Across the planet, pockets of defiant citizens began to organize, determined to fight back against the occupying Galactic Empire forces. In the ruins of a once bustling city, a young engineer named Aisha huddled with a group of her fellow survivors, their eyes burning with a fierce determination. "We can't just sit back and let the Empire take over our home," she said, her voice firm. "We have to fight back, no matter the cost." Aisha and her comrades set to work, scavenging whatever materials they could find to create makeshift weapons and explosives. They established hidden bases of operation, using the city's maze of tunnels and alleyways to their advantage, staging surprise attacks on the Empire's patrols and supply convoys. As news of the Resistance's activities spread, more and more people joined the cause, fueled by a desire for freedom and a refusal to submit to the Empire's tyranny. Veteran soldiers, who had been forced to retreat during the initial invasion, began to filter back into the cities, offering their expertise and leadership to the growing rebel movement. In the Human Command Center, General Nicholas Petrov and President Evelyn Harrington watched the reports of the Resistance's activities with a mixture of pride and trepidation. "They're doing exactly what we hoped they would," Petrov said, his brow furrowed. But the Empire's grip on the planet is still too strong. We need to find a way to support these pockets of resistance, to give them the resources and training they need to truly challenge the invaders. Evelyn nodded, her expression grim. I've already dispatched our best operatives to establish covert supply lines and communications networks. We have to do everything in our power to embolden the resistance and keep the Empire off balance. As the human resistance grew in strength and numbers, the Galactic Empire found itself facing a new and unexpected challenge. Its advanced technology and overwhelming firepower were no match for the resourcefulness and determination of the human fighters, who were willing to use any means necessary to defend their homeworld. Commander Psylocke, his earlier confidence shaken, pored over the reports from his field commanders, his brow furrowed with concern. These humans are proving to be far more resilient than we anticipated, he murmured to his aides. Their ability to adapt and organize resistance is unprecedented. We may have underestimated them. The human resistance fighters, emboldened by their initial successes, began to strike deeper into the Empire's occupied territories, targeting key infrastructure and disrupting the invaders' supply lines. Their guerrilla tactics, combined with their intimate knowledge of the terrain, made them a formidable foe that the Empire struggled to counter. In the midst of the chaos, Aisha and her comrades continued to fight, their determination only growing stronger with each hard-won victory. They knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous, but they were driven by a belief that their freedom was worth fighting for, no matter the cost. As the battle for the human homeworld raged on, the Galactic Empire found itself facing a crisis unlike any it had encountered before, a determined and resourceful enemy that refused to be broken, no matter the odds. The reports from the front lines painted a troubling picture for the Galactic Empire. Despite the overwhelming military might they had brought to bear, the human resistance continued to defy their occupation, launching surprise attacks and disrupting their supply lines with increasing frequency and success. Commander Psylocke paced the command deck of his flagship, his brow furrowed with consternation. "We have underestimated the tenacity of these humans," he said, addressing his senior officers. "Their ability to adapt and fight back is unlike anything we've encountered before." One of his aides, a cold and calculating strategist named Zora, spoke up. "We should have crushed them completely during the initial invasion. Now they have had time to organize and fortify their defenses. The cost of subduing them may be higher than we anticipated." Psylocke nodded, his expression grave. "Indeed, our forces are stretched thin, and the losses we've sustained are beginning to mount. If this continues, it could have serious implications for the stability of the Empire." The Galactic Empire's leadership, accustomed to swift and decisive victories, found themselves in an unfamiliar and uncomfortable position. The humans, with their resourcefulness and determination, had managed to stall the Empire's conquest, forcing them to reconsider their strategies and tactics. Back on the human homeworld, the resistance fighters continued to harass the occupying forces, striking at their weakest points and eroding their control over the planet. Aisha and her comrades, now seasoned veterans of the ongoing conflict, led daring raids and ambushes, their actions inspiring the civilian population and bolstering their resolve. President Evelyn Harrington and General Nicholas Petrov watched the reports of the Resistance's activities with a mix of pride and concern. "We're holding our own against the Empire, but we can't keep this up forever," Petrov said, his expression grim. "We need to find a way to turn the tide of the war in our favor." Evelyn nodded, her eyes narrowing. "We've already begun to divert more resources to the Resistance, but we need to do more. We need to find a way to strike at the heart of the Empire's occupation, to break their will to continue this war." As the conflict dragged on, the Galactic Empire's leadership found themselves torn between their desire for a quick and decisive victory and the growing realization that such a victory might be impossible to achieve. The cost of continuing the war, both in terms of resources and political stability, began to weigh heavily on their minds. Psylocke, His once unwavering confidence, now tinged with a hint of uncertainty, convened a private meeting with his top commanders. "We must consider the possibility of negotiating a peaceful resolution to this conflict," he said, his voice low. "The alternative may be too costly for the Empire to bear." The room fell silent as the commanders contemplated the gravity of Xyloth's words. They knew that any sign of weakness or concession would be seen as a betrayal by the Empire's leadership, but the reality of the situation was increasingly hard to ignore. As the debate continued, the fate of the human homeworld and the future of the Galactic Empire itself hung in the balance, with neither side willing to back down in the face of the other's determination. The human resistance, bolstered by the growing support and resources from their leadership, began to launch a series of daring counteroffensives against the Galactic Empire's occupation forces. Aisha, now a seasoned commander of the resistance, stood before her troops, her eyes burning with determination. "The time has come to take the fight to the Empire," she said, her voice firm. "We've been playing defense for too long. Now we strike back and show them the true strength of the human spirit." Under Aisha's leadership, the resistance fighters launched a series of coordinated attacks, targeting the Empire's supply lines, communication hubs, and even key military installations. Their intimate knowledge of the terrain, combined with their resourcefulness and guerrilla tactics, allowed them to strike with lightning speed and precision, catching the occupying forces off guard. As the reports of the human counteroffensive reached the Galactic Empire's command center, Commander Xyloth's expression darkened. "This is not what we expected," he said, his voice laced with frustration. "These humans are proving to be far more resilient and adaptable than we ever imagined." Zara, Xyloth's trusted aide, leaned forward, her eyes narrowed. "We need to adjust our strategy, Commander. The current approach is clearly not working. We must find a way to break the will of these defiant humans once and for all." Xyloth nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. "Agreed. Summon our best tacticians and strategists. We need to devise a plan that will crush this resistance once and for all." Back on the human homeworld, the resistance fighters continued to press their advantage, striking deeper into the Empire's occupied territories. Aisha and her comrades, emboldened by their successes, began to dream of a future where their planet was free from the Galactic Empire's oppressive rule. "We're making progress, but we can't let up," Aisha said, addressing her troops. "The Empire is reeling, but they will regroup and come back at us with everything they've got. We have to be prepared to fight even harder than before." President Evelyn Harrington and General Nicholas Petrov watched the unfolding events with a mix of pride and trepidation. "The resistance is doing an incredible job, but we can't let our guard down," Petrov said, his expression grim. "The Empire is still a formidable foe, and they won't give up without a fight." Evelyn nodded, her eyes narrowing. "Then we'll be ready for them. We've come too far to surrender now. The future of our civilization is at stake, and we will fight to the last to defend it." As the human counteroffensive continued to gain momentum, the Galactic Empire found itself facing a crisis unlike any it had encountered before. The once confident invaders now found themselves on the defensive, struggling to regain control of a homeworld that had proven far more resilient than they had ever imagined. The stage was set for a final, decisive clash between the two civilizations, with the fate of the human race hanging in the balance. The battle for the human homeworld had raged on for months, with neither side willing to concede defeat. The Galactic Empire, once confident in its overwhelming military might, found itself struggling to maintain control as the human resistance continued to erode its grip on the planet. Commander Xyloth pored over the latest intelligence reports, his expression grim. "The losses we have sustained are unsustainable," he said, addressing his senior officers. "Our forces are stretched thin, and the cost of continuing this conflict is threatening to destabilize the entire empire." Zara, his trusted aide, nodded in agreement. "The humans have proven far more resilient and resourceful than we ever imagined. They have rallied their people and inflicted heavy casualties on our troops. We may need to reconsider our options." Xyloth's jaw tightened, but he knew Zora was right. The human resistance had proven to be a formidable adversary, one that the Empire had underestimated at every turn. The cost of victory was becoming increasingly high, both in terms of resources and political stability. Back on the human homeworld, President Evelyn Harrington and General Nicholas Petrov watched the reports of the Empire's growing troubles with a mixture of relief and cautious optimism. "This is the moment we've been waiting for," Evelyn said, her eyes shining with determination. "The Empire is on the verge of defeat. We must press our advantage and force them to surrender." Petrov nodded, his expression grim. "But we must be careful. The Empire is still a powerful force, and they may be willing to do whatever it takes to avoid a total defeat. We cannot afford to let our guard down now." As the two sides prepared for what could be the final confrontation, the people of Earth rallied behind their resistance fighters, their determination fueled by the hope of finally regaining their freedom. Aisha, now a seasoned commander of the resistance, stood before her troops, her voice ringing with conviction. "We have come so far, fought so hard, and sacrificed so much. But today we stand on the brink of victory. The Galactic Empire may have the advantage in numbers and technology, but we have something they can never defeat: the unbreakable spirit of the human race." The troops erupted in cheers, their weapons held high as they prepared to launch a final, decisive assault against the occupying forces. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Empire's command center, Xyloth and his advisors engaged in heated debates over the future of the conflict. The losses they had sustained, both in terms of troops and resources, were mounting, and the threat of further unrest within the Empire loomed large. Finally, after days of intense deliberation, Xyloth made the decision that would echo through the ages. "We will withdraw our forces from the human homeworld," he announced, his voice grave. "The cost of continuing this war is too high, and we can no longer justify the expenditure of resources to maintain our occupation." The news of the Empire's retreat spread like wildfire across the human homeworld, igniting a wave of jubilation and relief. Evelyn and Petrov, their faces etched with a mixture of triumph and disbelief, watched as the Galactic Empire's ships began to depart, their massive silhouettes disappearing into the distance. "We did it," Evelyn whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "We stood up to the mightiest force in the galaxy and won." As the human people celebrated their hard-won victory, they knew that the road ahead would not be easy. The scars of the war would take time to heal, and the task of rebuilding their shattered world would be a daunting one. But for now, they reveled in the knowledge that they had proven their worth, that they had stared down the Galactic Empire and emerged victorious. The future of the human race was theirs to shape, and they would do so with a renewed sense of purpose and determination.